Welcome to Britain, a small island with a very big story. Its history is shaped by waves of people, traders, conquerors and dreamers, each leaving their mark. This rich tapestry of cultures and traditions makes Britain unique, and its story belongs to everyone. Our story begins over 2,000 years ago, when Britain was a land of forests, tribes and ancient mysteries. But across the sea, the mighty Roman Empire was eyeing this island as its next great conquest. Before Rome, Iron Age Britons lived in hill forts, farmed the land, and crafted beautiful objects. Their world was ruled by chiefs and guided by druids who held sacred ceremonies in stone circles. This was a land of fierce warriors, deep beliefs, and vibrant artistry. In 43 AD, Roman legions invaded, bringing roads, cities, and a new way of life. The British tribes fought bravely, but the Roman military machine proved unstoppable. Soon, Roman standards flew over new towns like Londinium, forever changing the island. For nearly 4 centuries, Britain was Roman Britannia. The Romans built cities, baths, and villas, introduced new laws, and brought urban life to the island. Latin became the language of power, and wealthy Britons adopted Roman customs. This era of Romanization left a legacy still visible today. When the Romans left, new invaders arrived, the Angles, Saxons and Jutes. They carved England into rival kingdoms, each ruled by warrior kings. Life was harsh, loyalty was everything, and epic tales like Beowulf were born. This was the dawn of Anglo-Saxon England. In 793 AD, Viking raiders stormed Britain's shores, bringing terror and upheaval. Their raids soon turned to conquest as the great heathen army swept across the land. Only Wessex, led by King Alfred, held out against the Viking tide. The struggle for England's future had begun. (1066). 3 rivals, 2 invasions, 1 crown. After defeating a Norwegian threat in the north, King Harold faced William of Normandy in the south. Exhausted but determined, Harold's army marched to meet William's forces at Hastings. The outcome would reshape England forever. After civil war, the Tudors brought peace, but Henry VIII's quest for a male heir changed everything. His desire to divorce Catherine of Aragon led to a break with the Catholic Church. England became Protestant and royal power grew. The stage was set for religious and political transformation. Elizabeth I's reign was England's golden age, marked by stability, creativity and exploration. She balanced religion, avoided marriage and became a symbol of strength. Shakespeare's plays flourished and English culture thrived. Under Elizabeth, England's identity blossomed. With Elizabeth's death, the Stuarts united England and Scotland, but clashed with Parliament. Kings James and Charles believed in divine right, while Parliament demanded a say in government. Tensions over money, religion and power grew. The seeds of civil war were sown. The 19th century brought a period of change so dramatic that it would reshape not just Britain, but the entire world. This was the Industrial Revolution, a time when the country transformed from a rural agricultural society into the world's first industrial superpower. New inventions like the steam engine, developed by pioneers like James Watt, provided a powerful new source of energy. This power drove machines in huge new factories called mills that could produce goods like textiles and iron on a massive scale never seen before. Britain became known as the workshop of the world, its factories churning out products that were sold across the globe, making the nation incredibly wealthy and powerful. This revolution was built on coal and iron, the raw materials that Britain had in abundance. Across the North and Midlands, new industrial towns and cities sprang up almost overnight. Places like Manchester, Leeds and Birmingham. People flocked from the countryside to these new urban centres in search of work, causing cities to grow at an astonishing rate. To connect these new industrial hubs, a revolutionary transportation network was created. Canals were dug to carry heavy goods, and then came the age of the railway. George Stephenson's rocket locomotive heralded a new era of fast, reliable travel, shrinking distances and allowing raw materials and finished products to be moved with unprecedented speed. Presiding over this extraordinary era of change was one of Britain's most iconic monarchs, Queen Victoria. She came to the throne in 1837 as a young woman of just 18 and would rule for over 63 years, giving her name to the age. Her long reign provided a sense of stability and continuity during a time of immense social and technological upheaval. Victoria became a powerful symbol of the nation itself. Her marriage to her beloved husband, Prince Albert, and their large family of 9 children presented an ideal of family life, duty and morality that many people in the middle classes aspired to. This set the tone for the era's social values of hard work, responsibility and proper behavior. Prince Albert was more than just the Queen's husband. He was a driving force for progress and reform. He was deeply interested in science, art and industry and wanted to showcase Britain's achievements to the world. His most famous project was the Great Exhibition of 1851, held in London. A spectacular glass and iron building, known as the Crystal Palace, was constructed in Hyde Park to house exhibits from all over Britain and its growing empire. It was a magnificent celebration of technology, manufacturing and design, attracting millions of visitors. The exhibition was a huge success, boosting national pride and reinforcing the belief that Britain was leading the world into a new, modern age of progress. The power generated by the Industrial Revolution allowed Britain to build the largest empire in the history of the world. By the end of the Victorian era, the British Empire covered about a quarter of the globe's land surface and ruled over a quarter of its population. It was often said that the sun never sets on the British Empire because it was always daytime in at least one of its many territories. This vast empire included huge countries like India, Canada and Australia, as well as numerous colonies in Africa, Asia and the Caribbean. Britain's powerful Royal Navy controlled the world's oceans, protecting trade routes and allowing Britain to project its power anywhere on the planet. The empire served several purposes for Britain. It was a source of immense wealth, providing cheap raw materials like cotton, sugar and rubber for British factories. The colonies also served as a huge market for Britain's manufactured goods, creating a closed economic system that greatly benefited the mother country. For many Victorians, however, the empire was about more than just money. They believed they had a moral duty to civilize what they saw as the less developed parts of the world. They saw it as their mission to spread British law, the English language and Christianity. This idea, famously expressed in Rudyard Kipling's poem The White Man's Burden, was used to justify imperial rule. The 20th century began with Britain at the height of its power, but this confidence would soon be shattered by the horrors of 2 world wars. In 1914, a complex web of alliances dragged the great powers of Europe into a devastating conflict. What became known as the First World War was unlike any war before it. Millions of men from Britain and its empire were sent to fight in the muddy, miserable trenches of France and Belgium. New technologies like machine guns and heavy artillery led to slaughter on an industrial scale. The immense loss of life, with nearly 1 million British soldiers killed, left a deep and lasting scar on the nation, creating a lost generation and changing British society forever. Just 2 decades later, the world was plunged into conflict once again. The rise of Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler posed a direct threat to peace and freedom in Europe. After attempts to appease Hitler failed, Britain declared war in 1939. The Second World War was a total war that involved everyone, not just soldiers on the battlefield. At home, Britain faced the threat of invasion and endured a period of intense bombing known as the Blitz. Cities were devastated, and civilians lived under the constant fear of air raids. Under the inspirational leadership of Prime Minister Winston Churchill, the British people showed incredible resilience and determination during their darkest hour. The second half of the 20th century was, honestly, a period of enormous social and cultural transformation for Britain. The country that had emerged from the war was tired of austerity and, well, ready for something new. The 1950s saw a gradual return to prosperity, but it was the 1960s that truly exploded with change. This was the decade of swinging London, a time of youthful rebellion, cultural creativity, and social liberation. London became the fashion capital of the world, and British music, led by bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, conquered the globe. It was a time of optimism and energy, as old social rules about class, sex, and authority were being challenged. At the same time, the British Empire was rapidly coming to an end. The economic cost of the war, combined with growing independence movements in the colonies, made the empire impossible to maintain. Prime Minister Harold Macmillan spoke of a wind of change blowing through Africa. One by one, countries across Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean gained their independence from British rule. This process, known as decolonization, was mostly peaceful, though not always. The end of the empire marked a fundamental shift in Britain's role in the world. It was no longer a global superpower, but had to find, a new identity as a medium-sized European nation. As Britain entered the 21st century, it continued to grapple with its identity in a rapidly changing world. Having joined the European Economic Community, the forerunner to the European Union, in 1973, Britain's relationship with Europe became a central and often divisive theme in its politics. For decades, the country debated the benefits of close European integration versus the desire to maintain its own sovereignty. This long-running argument eventually led to the historic referendum in 2016, when the British public narrowly voted to leave the European Union. This decision, known as Brexit, was a momentous event that has, reshaped Britain's political and economic future. The Britain of today is a nation of incredible diversity. The migration that began in the post-war years has continued, with people arriving from all over the world, including Eastern Europe, Africa, and Asia. This has transformed British cities into vibrant, multicultural hubs. Walking through London, Manchester, or Glasgow, you will hear hundreds of different languages and find communities from every corner of the globe. This diversity is celebrated in Britain's food, music, art, and festivals. It has created a society that is more dynamic and cosmopolitan than ever before, though the challenge of ensuring integration and equal opportunity for all remains an ongoing project. Our journey through 2,000 years of British history has been, a whirlwind tour of drama, conflict, and incredible transformation. We have seen how this small island on the edge of Europe has been shaped by successive waves of invaders and settlers. From the Romans and Anglo-Saxons to the Vikings and the Normans, each group left its indelible mark, contributing to the language, laws, and landscape of the nation. This constant mixing of peoples and cultures is the very foundation of Britain's story. It has created a complex and resilient identity, one that is not static but has been forged and reforged in the fires of history, from the battlefield of Hastings to the factories of Manchester. The past is never truly past in Britain. Its echoes can be heard everywhere. When you walk through the city of London, you are treading on streets laid out by the Romans. The language we speak today is a rich blend of Old English, Norman French, and Viking Norse. The fierce debates about power between the monarch and the people, which began with the Magna Carta and exploded in the Civil War, have shaped the country's democratic traditions. The great Victorian railway stations still stand as monuments to an age of industrial might, while the legacy of the British Empire continues to influence Britain's relationship with the rest of the world and the diverse makeup of its own population. So, what does the future hold for this nation with such a rich and heavy past? The story of Britain, as we have seen, is far from over. The unwritten chapter is being drafted right now in the daily lives of its people and the major decisions being made about its direction. The country continues to navigate the consequences of Brexit, forging a new relationship with its European neighbours and the wider world. It faces the universal challenges of our time, such as climate change, technological disruption, and the ongoing quest for a fairer and more equal society for all its citizens, regardless of their background. The narrative continues to evolve every single day. One of the greatest strengths of Britain has always been its ability to absorb new influences and reinvent itself. The multicultural, multi-faith society of today is the latest chapter in a long story of migration and settlement. This diversity is a source of incredible cultural dynamism, enriching the nation's food, music, arts, and ideas. The challenge for the future will be to continue building a cohesive society that embraces this diversity, ensuring that everyone has a voice and a stake in the nation's story. The future of British identity will be shaped in its vibrant, globalized cities and its quiet country villages alike, a continuous dialogue between tradition and modernity.